Rev up your engines! Well, for a while, all the manufacturers thought, oh, the minivan is dead, right? My youngest son got one so all the kids can fit in, and my oldest son said, I'm never going to drive a van. Guess what? He's got a Sienna hybrid van now. So, they are popular. Now, as far as I'm concerned, the Sienna is the best made van. It's weird because the biggest seller today is the Chrysler Pacifica van. And if you know anything about Chryslers, they're rolling piles of junk. Now, they never released the figures, but from what I've researched, the Sienna vans are almost always bought by human beings, individuals. The Pacifica vans are almost always leases or rental. You go to rent a van, almost every time the only thing you can get is a Chrysler Pacifica van because they can't sell them individually. They sell them in mass to rental car companies, leasing car companies. The actual individuals people prefer buying these. A lot of people like the Odyssey vans, but I'm not a fan because I'm a mechanic. Their transmissions have had historical problems. Their engines have had historical problems. Their air conditioning have had historical problems. These really don't have that many problems. A few of them as they got older, the center of the steering column, there's a centerpiece, they'll wear and they'll clunk a little and you can replace that if you feel unsafe. But these are relatively bulletproof vans. Now, the owner of this one, he's got a code stored he's worried about. He's got one of those little scanner car ID things, and we're going to find out exactly what's going on. But he's owned it since it was almost brand new. And other than his wife hitting a deer or a deer hitting his wife, whatever way you want to put it, he had to have that part replaced. But obviously, it didn't bother the van. It still runs perfectly fine. Now, the only problem that he mentioned was the sliding door here was having problems, so he greased it, and he doesn't have that problem. A lot of them will do that. You need to grease them every once in a while. And even though this one lives in Massachusetts, Toyota rust-proofs these things pretty well. You can see there's no rust coming through anywhere, and the undercarriage is pretty clean. Now, the reason people like these vans is because of all the space they have. They're true 3-row seating. They're not make-believe where the back, only tiny people could sit. It's full size. And when you take the seats out, you can have lots of room. You can even take these front seats out, and it becomes more like a cargo van. This is just front-wheel drive, but really, hey, he's in Massachusetts. Front-wheel drive has plenty of traction in the snow and the slush. You don't necessarily need all-wheel drive. And he's like me, he doesn't put snow tires on. He has all-terrain tires, and he has no problem driving in the winter. Now, he just mentioned his wife loves the van. They do, because they can fit a lot of kids. You can get in and out easy, and if you got to park somewhere, you can get in pretty tight because the doors slide backwards. You don't have to open the doors to get out. So they are very handy. Like I said, both of my sons have them. One has an older one like this, and the new one has a hybrid one, and they're both extremely happy with them. Now, he's thinking there could be some kind of a problem with it because of the code, so we get out the scan tool, we'll do diagnostics. We got it plugged in here. Connected it already. That was pretty fast. It is a Toyota Sienna. We'll do standalone diagnostics. 2015. 2GRFE without smart key. And I like that because I like regular keys. Less things to go wrong. You can see we can do a full topology scan, so that's what we're going to do. And while it's doing it, after all, it's a 10-year-old vehicle now. The plastic's still good. The interface is all clean. Cloth seats are still in great shape. I mean, look at the space in there. It's just insane. There's so much space in these things. Right now, we've got the scanner, so we'll start out. It's got TPMS codes for the tire pressure monitoring. Who really cares about that? But we'll see what it says is wrong. And the trouble codes are data not received from the transmitter. So, hey, the batteries are probably dead on both 2, 3, and 4. I guess one's still working, but who cares? You're going to take the car's tires all apart, put in new sensors, spend hundreds of dollars when you can get a tire pressure gauge to do it. So that we don't care about. And the only other code is navigation system. You know, it's got the navigation system here, but really, we all have phones that work just as well. You can see EV connection, signal fault. Who really cares? Nobody cares. We'll erase those anyways. Could have been just something that went bad when the battery was replaced. Because let's face it, our cell phones, I got a Google Pixel, work much better. They upgrade themselves, you don't have to pay money for them, and they got a lot more information, whether you use Google Maps or whatever. The phone ones work fine. And we'll look at live data. Remember, black is good, red is bad. We'll start looking at things that really mean anything. There are fuel ratio sensors. 0 is perfect. Look, 0. Every once in a while it goes to minus 0.01. So it's practically perfect. And this is with a vehicle that has 146,906 miles on it too. And what's that? A Cadillac temperature. Look, the converter is exactly the same on both sides. It's running perfectly fine. Perfectly even on both bank 1 and bank 2 of the engine. Even the impedance of the oxygen sensors is exactly the same. It's amazing how they can make these things run that well. Reasons that people like these is because of their engine. It's powerful enough, V6 engine, timing chain, you don't have to worry about a timing belt. They're virtually indestructible. Well, at least the old ones are. A lot of that has to do with the fact that they're not turbocharged. For example, when Toyota came out with the Tundra, they dumped the V8s, put in turbocharged 6. Now they got to replace 100,000 engines because they broke down, right? This is a non-turbocharged engine. This is probably one of the best engines Toyota ever made. Now, you can't get it anymore in a Sienna because as of last year, a couple years ago, the only thing they sell in the United States are 4-cylinder hybrids. Now, both of my sons have one of these. The older one like this, no hybrid, and on a highway you get about 23 miles a gallon, and you get in the teens if you stop and go all the time in traffic. But the hybrid, my son with that one, he gets phenomenal gas mileage. So there is a big differential. Now if you're going to buy, say, one of these new, you don't have a choice. You're going to have to get the hybrid. That's the only thing that they sell. But you buy a new hybrid, those things can last 200,000 or more pretty much trouble-free. I would not personally buy one that had 190, 200,000 mile used because there's too many expensive parts that you'd have to replace, like the electric drive and the battery that cost a whole bunch of money, right? I would rather buy a used V6 that I'd buy one with 200,000 miles if it was taken care of and I checked it out and it was like that machine just showed. I'd buy one used because they're simpler. There's less things to go wrong with one of these. New one, sure, it's going to last you quite some time, but as time goes on, those new ones, they're going to be a little bit touchier to buy used than these older ones that had much simpler technology in them. It's in Massachusetts. Check it out. The alloy wheels are still in good shape. Back her up. You can see it's got a decent backup camera. A lot of glare today because we're in the sun. Notice, idle smooth. Even though it's got almost 150,000 miles on it, still idle smooth. Now they're not super high up in the air, so I'll go over the little bump here slower, but now we'll go down the road. And they are pretty cushy riding vans. They have a reasonably large wheelbase, and that's going to make them ride smoother than a lot of vehicles. And even though this still has the original struts and everything on it, it is extremely smooth riding on these bumpy Rhode Island roads. I'm going to go race car mode. Look, we can shift it ourselves. Look, 3, 2, 1. Whee! Now we're in a race car. Most people don't race these things. They just put it in regular drive. And as we come out, we'll see what kind of acceleration it has. And here we go. It almost peeled out, but that shows that the traction control is working. It started to, but the traction control kicked in. Extremely seamless shifts. Almost 150,000 miles. Still runs pretty much like the day it came off the factory floor here in the United States, as this one was built in the United States. And really, it handles more like a car than like a truck. Understand one thing. Maybe minivans, but they're actually based upon the Toyota Camry frame and body and stuff. It's pretty much, they took it all from the Camry. The old Toyota vans, the ones that had the motor in the middle, those were a unique design. And they cost too much money to make because of their mid-engine design. So Toyota decided, hey, we'll take the Camry as a base for the frame and everything, drivetrain, and we'll turn it into a minivan, and man, it is a success. There's no arguing that. There we go. See, it's decent acceleration. It doesn't need a turbo. That's why a V6 engine is made for a van. The 4s, they're really underpowered, and even with a turbo, they got lag. They don't take off the same. On a blustery day with the wind blowing today, take my hands off. It's really not being blown around all that much for a van. Nothing like those old Volkswagen microbuses. You get in a windstorm, they'd blow you right off the road. This has plenty enough heft that it's not really affected by the wind. If you want space, look at all the space. These things have room up the wazoo. Plus their heating and air conditioning systems, look. They got vents for the middle. They got vents for the back. On both sides. They're very comfortable vehicles. So now you know what a Sienna minivan is like. It's not that mini after all. It's got a nice powerful engine, gets decent gas mileage, but mainly the thing is, it holds a bunch of people, it's got nice acceleration, and it can last basically forever if you have just minimum care. Change the oil every 5,000 miles. That's pretty much it. Now, yes, this had parts replaced because a deer ran into it. That's not the car's fault, right? So, if you're looking for a minivan, this is my advice of what to buy. You know, you don't be fooled by Pacifica, the Chrysler Pacifica minivan, being the biggest seller in the United States. Because, like I say, that's false. Lease them at rental places where then they sell them after 2 years or whatever. These are the things that people buy and they drive them forever. Somebody who's smart, they'll buy a van like this if they want something that's going to last forever. The people that buy the Pacificas, there's actually less individuals. Go look at rental car places and see what vans they have to rent. You'll see almost all of them are filled with Pacifica vans. They get a better deal. Chrysler's got to get them out the door. They just don't hold up. Their transmissions blow up. Their engines have problems. They're Chryslers. And this is a Toyota. It's a completely different ball game. And an older one like this, it's pushing 10 years now. It doesn't run much different than it did the day it came off the factory floor here in the United States. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.